streets, I made arrests, I responded to calls, I initiated traffic stops, I went out looking for the crime. What I am telling you is I was the aggressor. I did not sit back and wait for our communications department to say 795, respond to this address for this type of call. I went out looking for it. That's what this department needs to do, and that is what I call preventing crime from happening. As a private investigator, 90% of my work is criminal defense. I think that benefits me and the community once I get elected, because I know what the prosecution is going to look for. Strike that. I know what the defense is going to look for in order to attack the prosecution's case. I also am updated every time the law changes, whether it's amended or there's a new law placed on the book by the legislation. I have to know what that law is in order to be able to defend against it. My objective, and I know that I spoke here and I recognize several faces, but my objective is, 1, to start a cyberbullying unit, 2, a white-collar crime unit, and 3, I plan on revitalizing the posse. Let me talk about the posse, because that is going to be a very integral part of the department and Green Valley and Santa Rita area. And the reason is because of the SB 1070 issue in the board. Revitalizing the posse is only going to consist of former law enforcement officers. As sheriff, I am the only law enforcement officer that can deputize anybody. I do not want to deputize a citizen with no formal training for their own safety. Former law enforcement officers, whether they're from within the state or out of state, if they have experience, they know how to apply the law, they know what to look for when a crime is being committed, and if they are approached or encounter a hostile act, they know how to defend themselves. Why that's so important is because when Duke came out in July of 2010 and said he's not going to enforce SB 1070 until he's told it's a law, he's also stated that they're just merely trespassing. How many people are familiar with the incident that happened about 2 weeks ago up near Eloy?
Mm-hmm.
Does everybody know what I mean by UDAs too?
No.
Undocumented aliens. Okay, they're commonly known as illegals. UDAs for me is the police term that we use. Approximately 2 weeks ago, there were 2 UDAs shot up in a wash area just outside of Eloy. It is a Pima County case because of where it started was the jurisdiction of Pima County. There were also, I don't know the number, but there were also a bunch of UDAs gathered in a bush. So the information from those UDAs led law enforcement to the 2 bodies that were shot. Nobody knows if it was a vigilante act. Nobody knows if it was a rival gang that initiated this and took the aggressive behavior. However, it's at the north part of the county. It went into Pinell County. The Sheriff's Department knows the routes that these UDAs take. The UDAs either pay $1,000 to $3,000 to $10,000 depending on where their originating origin is to come into the country. If they don't have money, what they're normally required to do is carry drugs. Marijuana, coke, methamphetamines, heroin. They have to do something. So for Clarence Dupnick to say they're just merely trespassing is a facade. It's not. There is a criminal act. I've been involved in cases when UDAs came up here, the coyotes or the leaders break into a house, they stole weapons, went down to the next ranch and raped the woman. Okay, these are things that don't get publicized unless somebody really makes a big issue of it. They bring a violence that most people don't see. One of the issues that I also have with the Sheriff's Department is their property crime. They don't take an aggressive approach to trying to deter it from occurring. Why? Because most people have insurance. So the officers will respond, take a report, and not even investigate any further. I've been a victim of a burglary here in Pima County. We know who burglarized my house, and there has not been an arrest. As a victim, I'm entitled to know when an arrest is made and the course of action that is taken, and if the defendant or the perpetrator is offered a plea and is going to get probation, jail time. As a victim, you're entitled to know that. We know who burglarized my house at that time, but there has never been an arrest. So, in my opinion, property crimes are the seed of violence. Because the people who usually burglarize a house are your druggies. They need their fix. So they'll break into the house, steal electronics, they'll steal cash, they'll steal jewelry. These are things that are easily pawned off. They take that money, they go to the street dealer, buy their fix for that day. That street dealer runs out, he has to go to his supplier. That supplier runs out, now you see the chain there, the food chain, right? But what stems off of that are your more violent crimes. You have your ag assaults, your armed robberies. You also have your home invasions, which are very brutal people. These people go in, they'll tie you up with duct tape, cords, rope, anything, and burglarize you. They will terrorize you at the same time. And if it's a drug ripoff, it becomes even more violent because it's a rival that is stealing from you. And that's not including once it gets up to the chain or the drug cartels, how violent they become. Everybody reads about it or hears about the beheadings down there, the mass murders, the graves that are full of bodies. It's publicized. So if we have a proactive department instead of a reactive department, it's going to deter a lot of the crime. Now, how I also plan on attacking that and defending it. Currently, the Sheriff's Department has 3 assistant chiefs. They make over $150,000 a year plus benefits. They're overstaffed on captains, lieutenants, and administrative sergeants. Through attrition, once I'm elected, I know 3 assistant chiefs are going to be retiring. I'm only going to have one assistant chief. Just on the 2 positions that are not going to be replaced is $300,000 in savings. That's going to be funneled into more deputies. Then you have the captains, lieutenants, and the staff, or the administrative sergeants, there are those people that are eligible for retirement, and they're not going to like the changes. I'm not going to replace them. We're too top heavy. I'm going to take that money, put it back into more deputies on the street. Furthermore, what they're not going to like is the fact that they are going to be required to work 8 to 12 hours a week in patrol. That's going to benefit you folks. How? One is, they're not going to be complacent behind their desk. They're going to be responsible. They're going to be assigned a call. Mr. Smith, your house is being burglarized right now. I have a lieutenant in the area. He's going to be assigned that call. He's going to be responsible for writing that report. That's going to help him or her as well because of the fact that it's going to keep them in touch with how the law is applied. So with the administration commissioned officers now on the streets, that's going to give you folks a higher visibility of law enforcement. The budget currently is $121 million. That's just taxpayers' dollars. That does not include any kind of state or federal grants. It does not include any kind of RICO seizures. Okay, that's just strictly tax dollars from your property. With the cooperation of the Board of Supervisors, I would like to reduce that by 5% with the promise that the following year I get that 5% so I can put more deputies back on the street. So now you have your commanders, which consist of the elected official, me. You have your 1 assistant chief, you have your captains, lieutenants, and your administrative sergeants out on the street as well. And I'm not talking from 8 to 4. I'm not talking 9 to 1. I'm talking peak hours when the crime is occurring between 6 and 2. 6 at night to 2 in the morning. I don't want them just patrolling and driving around the street and going to Whataburger or IHOP and thinking that's what their fulfillment of that qualification is going to be. It's not going to happen that way. I don't need my commanders to come by implementing policy when they're out of touch with reality.